So thanks, Lee, for having enough faith in me to let me do this again this year. I had such a fabulous time last year. And my goal today is to be amusing. So with that aim in mind, we will get started. All right, we'd all like to think we're design professionals, we're experienced, we're knowledgeable, we're capable, we're talented, but unfortunately we need to add human to that list of qualities. Being human, of course, makes us fallible, prone to mishaps, missteps, snafus, screw-ups, and boo-boos. Our topic today centers on mistakes we've all made, and occasionally, in spite of our best efforts, we continue to make. How desperate we are to learn from our blunders, and yet that doesn't prevent us from making the same mistakes more than once, darn. We've all been there, we've made dumb decisions, we've had lack of foresight, we've made absurd assumptions. My goal is for all of us to share and reveal those moments of mortification. Hopefully we can do all that today. All right, I'm going to start with Philip Gorovin is on my far end. Since launching his firm in 2001, Philip Gorovin is known for his stylish interiors that combine elegant historical references with sophisticated modernism. His work has been featured in numerous publications, including Elle Decor, House Beautiful, and the leader in fake news, the New York Times. Philip is a contributing editor to Connecticut Cottages and Gardens, and he's also participated in the Kip Space Show House, very prestigious. Okay, next up, Bill Peace is a designer based in Atlanta, known for sophisticated yet soothing interiors, whether rustic or cosmopolitan. He's the winner of the 2016 ASID Achievement Award for Residential Interiors and is a multiple recipient of ADAC's Southeast Designer of the Year. He also sits on the advisory board for the College of Design at the University of Kentucky, Bill's alma mater. Nate Berkus started his design firm, Nate Berkus Associates, over 20 years ago. The firm is headquartered in Chicago, and they work on projects countrywide as well as internationally. Nate is also a New York Times bestselling author and a product designer with a home collection at Target. His new show, Nate and Jeremiah by Design, is currently airing on TLC. Amusingly enough, it seems his show is centered around rescuing folks from what we're talking about today, in part, renovations gone wrong. I have asked all of my panelists to come clean about the times they've made a mess of things. So I wanted to start with mistakes in design. This belongs to Philip, and this looks lovely. Tell us a little bit about how this went wrong.
Yeah, so my clients absolutely loved it, and it was going very smoothly until they had Thanksgiving dinner, and someone got up and hit that light and punctured their head. It's actually ceramic and it's very sharp. Yeah. So I guess the lesson is
to wear a helmet at Thanksgiving.
At Thanksgiving dinner, exactly.
So this is a slide that Bill courteously provided.
This one's kind of frightening for so many reasons. We had this client who had amazing art collection, and we saw many of the pieces. That painting was one they demanded to have in the dining room. And I think it's just horrendous that you would sit there, so I decided what we really had to do was paint the room orange and distract a little bit from the painting.
I don't have images, so now, Nate, I'm counting on you.
Mistake in design. So the first time I worked in a condo building, I didn't realize that you couldn't just move bathrooms. I was like, well, we'll just change where the shower is and change where the toilet is. And my client was on the board of the building that we were working in. And he got a call from the building manager that my guys were trying to core the concrete floor on the 18th floor of a high-rise to move the drain for the shower. And they stopped us down, obviously. So that was arguably my largest.
Was it an expensive mistake?
Well, it was just expensive because we were fired. So, yeah, that would be.
That would,
yeah,
yes.
So, yes,
that would qualify.
Yes, it cost
qualify.
us something.
Mistakes in judgment. Philip, we're going to start with you. Just tell us why. Just explain this to us.
Yeah, I was very reluctant to send you this photo.
I can see why.
This was a dining room that I did early on in my career, and I was obviously super ambitious at the time. And it was a beach house. I pulled it all out. Like basically every famous dead designer is in that room.
Right.
Actually, I do have lots of projects where there weren't problems. This is an apartment on Park Avenue. It was my first project in L. The client basically said, give me a Barbie townhouse. It was sort of like a glamorous version of a Barbie townhouse. And then we got to the master bedroom, and she kind of went crazy. She's like, I want gold painted foil on the walls. She's like, put it on the ceiling. I was like, oh my God. It's like I was trying to do my best just to restrain her.
Look, I think rooms like this are fabulous, pattern on pattern on pattern,
Yeah.
and color. But it's not. It's for the strong.
We have to listen to our clients as well. And
Always.
My client didn't think there was anything wrong with this except that I didn't put the paper on the ceiling.
All right, next slide. This is sort of, to me, like accessorizing run amok.
Well, there's so many things wrong with this.
Yeah.
It's hard to know where to start. This was a pretty great house. After we finished it, they decided they would let a book writer come in and do photography and put it in a book. And so there was a mirror hanging there, and they decided they didn't like the mirror. That would be the photographer, because the client wasn't there either. And they hung a picture, that's a photograph of a fish being caught with the fly, if you look real close, underneath it.
So when you look, presumably in the mirror, you're just looking at a fish face, right? Like
That's all
the
one can
reflection you
consider.
see. You're up. You've got a story to tell about this.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So this is a detail of we just bought a beautiful new home built in the 1920s here in Los Angeles, and the backyard was a mix of concrete and terracotta, and just really in bad condition. And so I made the sweeping decision that we would rip out 30,000 square feet of concrete and tile and replace it with this Nicaraguan encaustic concrete tiles in this check. And this is actually the finished. This is how it looks now, but it was we basically ordered 15,000 square feet of the non-white tile originally, and it came and it looked like Shakey's Pizza. It was bright red. So yeah, that was my biggest. That was brutal.
So that really is a mistake in judgment. When Margaret Russell was the editor-in-chief of Elle Decor, I just moved into the house I live in now up in the Hollywood Hills, and she agreed to photograph it. It was really, fantastic honor. And I pulled the house together very quickly for this photo shoot. And at the 11th hour, I thought, you know what? My living room, it just doesn't have enough pizzazz. It's just not fabulous enough. It's not going to photograph well. It doesn't have enough drama. So I'm going to do something really ballsy. I'm going to paint the walls lime green. And the photographer showed up. And I remember him looking around and saying, I can't shoot this room. Everything about the quality of the light in the room and the way the green was reflecting off all the surfaces, it was so bilious. It was so unpleasant. But of course they had to shoot it, and the picture, was published in Elle Decor, and it looks like crap. Anyway, so that's what I was going to show. All right. So mistakes in hiring. Philip, I turn to you.
This is the case of the rogue millennial assistant, basically.
I love that expression.
This project cost me a lot in therapy. It was a really small apartment on the Upper East Side, fresh out of design school. He did all the measurements. We had measured it so that on the floor plan, that bench was supposed to go at the end of the bed.
Well,
Yeah.
And I had something where a beautiful, beautiful woman, just lovely, bit dead behind the eyes, and she, we sent her out to measure something, not once, not twice, but perhaps thrice, to make sure that these extraordinary bookcases that I was buying from Lee Stanton would fit in, in this new media room that we were doing. And sure enough, we are well a foot off our, supposed height, and they ultimately went in, and then they look wonderful, and the client's very happy. But the fact that I had to, essentially take a skill saw to these, 19th century cabinets was just tragic. But it was because I trusted someone else's measurements. But anyway, mistakes in architecture. Bill, I think we're up with you. Would you like to explain this?
Well, this was a really cool room that we worked on that had parchment wall panels, and we finished the project, and the client decided that they needed to have a better sound system, so they had a guy come in and he just gouged into the wall, put his nice speaker in, and it's the AV people are the bane of my existence in so many ways. But
I so agree with you.
It's kind of like the HVAC people who have to have the thermostat right in the center of the best wall in the room.
Right.
The AV people are so proud. Sorry, guys. They're so proud of their speakers. And let's make them huge, and let's make them massive.
Yeah, that is just tragic,
space.
cutting into parchment wall cover. Nate, do you have an architectural mistake?
I think, probably the biggest mistake that I ever made was with my very first client in Chicago, and I I was a sociology and French major. I have no formal training in design, and I got a client because I worked for an auction house, and this really lovely lady hired me. I'm 22 years old, and I'm walking behind her, and she's in here. I want to do, this, and here I want a wall of custom bookshelves. And I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea how to make any of these things. I have no vendors. I have no business. I have nothing. I have actually no business standing here. Is really what it was. And so I stopped and I thought, you know what? I'm going to call the people that did the Ralph Lauren store, because they know how to do millwork. Phenomenal company called Detmers. We worked with them for many, many years. And so they came up and they did their site measurement, and it was the most expensive thing at the time I had ever sold. It was like $70,000 for this wall of paneling and bookshelves. And it came in and it was a foot too long. And I couldn't afford to do anything about that. So I was standing next to the client, who was lovely about it, and we ended up just sending these pieces back and modifying the design, and which I did end up paying for. But I just remember standing next to her, like basically in an adult diaper, thinking, this is why it's hard to be in this business.
Going on to plain old mistakes, this is an image of mine, and I bought this console in the back from Joel Chan. It weighed hundreds of pounds. It was an old Italian piece, and it wasn't until I got it into the room and realized that it wasn't a console. It was kind of the same height as the dining table and looked absolutely stupid. So I ran around the property and I found some rocks that had been scattered out, scattered around the property, and I got the stonemason to, cut the bottoms of them so that they were relatively flat, so that I could prop this thing up and at least make it console height. And the client actually ended up loving it, but it really was kind of a dumbass mistake, because I just, but all's well that ends well, right? So on that note, I'd like to know if anybody has any questions of any of us here, or if anyone wants to share one of their chuckle-headed mistakes. We'd love to hear it. Please.
Any tips on telling a client no?
No.
No.
That's my tip.
I think that comes with years of doing it and having confidence, that you project confidence and you have a reason why it's a bad idea. And if you explain to somebody, this is a really bad idea, and you can do it if you want, but I don't recommend it, and you just kind of beat that into them, after a while they'll give in.
With a stick.
Pick your battles.
Yeah.
Or they'll fire you.
Do you guys think that you ever make your most cavalier mistakes on your own projects? Like, if there's going to be a mistake to be made, it's going to be happening at my house.
I absolutely agree with you. I have wanted to fire myself so many times. I'm a terrible designer when it comes to working for me.
I can remember making mistakes, like just not getting samples, like not getting the fabric sample. I don't want to wait for it.
Right.
I want the fabric and have the curtains up. So.
Well, also, it's like it's not embarrassing, because you are left with yourself. You go to bed that night and you're like, I can't even believe that I just that those pieces of upholstery were delivered, and I thought that was going to work.
Never done. Thank you so much for coming. And have a wonderful day, and be careful out there. No mistakes today.